Situation drives strategy. You cannot ask somebody, have you given up on this project at the beginning of the conversation? It's out of context. It has, for it to be appropriate, for it to be authentic, it has to be on something they've already started, a communication you've already started. If I get a text message or an email from somebody and it's my first communication from them, and they basically say, have you given up on working with me? My answer then is yes, because you're trying to manipulate me with this question. I never started, so I never could have given up. And you, if you try that on me, you need to learn that situation drives strategy. It's out of context, and people won't trust you if it's out of context. They're going to feel like, even though they're saying, no, there's something wrong with this. Maybe it works on people some, but if you're opening your communications with have you given up on, I would ask you to rethink your approach to people. Come back, be a little more authentic, pull out of the manipulation. Have you given up on this project is for when people have ghosted you. When you're being ghosted, have you given up on this project is just darn near, not only it's close to guarantee, and nothing is guaranteed, but it's as close to a guarantee that they're going to respond to you. And on top of that, they're going to respond to you in 3 to 5 minutes of seeing it. And what we want you to know from the Black Swan Group is the system that you're using is perfectly designed to give you the outcome that you've obtained. What do I mean by that? If they're ghosting you, your communication strategy has led to them ghosting you if they've stopped communicating with you. People don't stop communicating if they feel listened to. One of two things is going on the other side, and it's probably a combination of both. You're not listening. You're pitching. You're explaining. Ronald Reagan said, if you're explaining, you're losing. And secondly, there's a really good chance that they're losing power and influence on their side. Thank you very much. I love the applause. For those of you that are applauding, much appreciated. So you've got to take into account that you have been listening to them, and they may be losing influence on their side, which embarrasses them. They don't want to admit that. That's one of the reasons they're going to stop talking to you. A lady I was advising on negotiations in the early days before the book came out, we hadn't proved this concept. She's selling this guy on an investment. She's running an investment fund, and it happens to be an NFL coach, and he's ghosting her. And I said, send him a text that says, have you given up on investing in a fund? And she's like, I never heard of that, but what the heck? I got nothing to lose. He's not calling me back anyway. So she sends him the text message, have you given up on investing in the fund? He responds immediately. That's what they will do. And she goes back to pitching before, which caused him to stop talking to her in the first place because she was pitching, she was explaining, she wasn't listening. And it was the last she ever heard of him. This is the most powerful one-shot reset you are ever going to be given, ever. But if you go back to what contributed them to ghosting you in the first place, you just blowing your one-shot reset. What do you got to do when you reset? You got to get a that's right out of them. You got to demonstrate understanding. You got to make them feel heard. Give you another example. It's in the book. Never Split the Difference. Woman consultant. She's having a problem with a male CEO. She's perceiving that he's somewhat of a misogynist. He's giving her a hard time because she's a woman. He owes her money. He doesn't want to pay. He's making up all of these nonsensical excuses. We say do two things. Send him a text saying, have you given up on settling this amicably? It's a version of, have you given up on this project? Now, he's going to get back to you right away. And at that point in time, you have to be prepared with a summary to get a that's right out of him. Make him feel heard. Make him feel understood, because it breaks down barriers. When you make somebody feel understood, when you get a that's right out of somebody, agreement is right around the corner. And the important thing about that idea right around the corner is you can't see it, but it's on top of you. It's right around the corner. Now, she doesn't think that he's going to call back right away because he's been so uncooperative and so hostile and so defensive and all this negative stuff. She's like, yeah, sure. I'm going to send him the text just to prove that you're wrong, and he ain't getting back to me. And she's not ready with a summary. Sends him the text. He gets back to her right away. The sound of his voice triggers her again. She's not ready with a summary, which, by the way, keeps you from being triggered. One of the reasons you want to summarize the other side is because it calms you down. Not because so much as it calms them down, but it calms you down. Even uttering an attempt at a summary of their perspective calms you down. It's incredible. She's not ready for this. His voice triggers her again. She gets mad and it goes down the tubes and she doesn't get paid. So haven't you given up on this project? Have you given up on settling this amicably? Have you given up on X? Whatever that is, they will respond, and they are going to respond in 3 to 5 minutes. Again, this is to restart a communication and be ready with a summary, because if they stop communicating with you, it's a really good chance your communication strategy contributed to the problem. The system you're using is perfectly designed to give you the outcome that you've obtained. Remember,
Chris, what do you do when you go for a no and you get a yes?
Well, see, that's a great question.
When you go for a no and you get a yes, if you didn't hear the question.
First of all, nobody will do that. And I already know. I know how hard it is for anybody to say yes. I mean, it's insanely hard. And my son used to challenge me on this. We're walking out of a building with a client here in New Jersey across the river, and they got a security guard who has checked us in, and we're checking out. And he's a security guard, and he's got Allied Security. And so my son says, I don't think it's always hard for somebody to say yes to something. And the security guard's right there, and I look at him, I go, do you work for Allied Security? Now he's at work, on duty. He's the same guy that checked us in the morning. He remembers us from the morning before. He's got a uniform on, says Allied Security. I said, you work for Allied Security? And he goes, why do you want to know?
Yeah, that's right.
And I look at my son, and I go, now in the unlikely event the answer is yes, what you are going to get is silence. They're just not going to say yes. Now, on 1 in 10,000, because we like asking ridiculous you'll be shocked at the no questions we ask. We coach employees to ask their bosses, do you want me to fail? And every now and then, if the answer is yes, you will get silence. And also part of negotiation is you go from wondering to knowing. And you're never worse off. You might not like the answer, but you cannot move forward until you know what ground you're standing on. And so if the answer is, have you given, a question we send out all the time, have you given up on doing business with the Black Swan Group? If they don't respond, you know what we do next? Pursue someone else. How many non-responders do you have? You know how many we have? None. Because we don't pursue that business. If they're not going to do business with us, there are lots of people who will. And I'm not wasting my time on people who won't do business with us.
Love that. Absolutely. Another quick question. I'm not seeing a hand. I have one really interesting thing in the book. You make this argument that the smarter you are, the more difficult it is to be a good negotiator. So there's hope for a lot of us in the room. Yeah, talk about that. Why is that?
Smart people with higher degrees, they want to show you how smart they are. You can't get them to shut up. I mean, you can't. They just want to show you how they've thought stuff through. They want you to appreciate how much they've thought stuff through. And so they want to lay it all out for you. They want to help. I mean, it's very well-intentioned stuff, but it's really hard to get those kind of people to shut up.
Yeah. And this is about shutting up, asking the question, and getting information from who you're talking to, getting them to talk, not me to talk.
Your counterpart should be talking 5 times more than you.
Yeah.
We like to say, he who talks most loses.
That's good. That's good. He who talks most loses. Who has a question? Anybody?
Conversation going forever. I got one more question that I'm personally curious about. You talk a lot about mirroring, where you say the last 3 words of what somebody says and the power of that, and then you just shut up. The mirroring versus layering. Example, when you object, okay, or when you say something that's like, look, we don't have the budget for this, right? Mirroring is, so you don't have the budget. Sit, let it sit. So, layering would be, help me understand, what do you mean by you don't have the budget? Is one more powerful than the other? Because what you're both trying to do is get them to talk more and really uncover the true meaning behind what they're saying there. Is there a difference between that? And do you see one as more valid than the other in certain circumstances?
To begin with, if you're at the point where somebody says, we don't have the budget, and you say, help me understand, what do you mean by you don't have the budget? You're telling them that you have not been paying attention up to now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use that as kind of a very simple example, but you understand what I'm saying, like layering questions to tell me more about that. Could you explain to me? Could you give me an example of versus?
Hold it. The first thing you said, tell me more about that's not a question, it's a command. And then you followed up with 2 straight yes-oriented questions, which are trap questions.
Okay.
But nobody wants to say yes to anything.
Okay.
So you hit me with 3 straight bad communication techniques.
Okay.
Right off the bat. Tell me more about that is not a question, it's a command. It's a grab for autonomy. It's an attempt to take control of the conversation. Taking control is taking away somebody's autonomy, which we will die to preserve our autonomy.
But when you talk about calibrated questions, don't you talk about how you want to make the illusion of them in control when you're actually in command?
We want to have the upper hand. We don't want to have control.
Okay.
I mean, and I'll tell you something else. We don't try to get information by asking questions. We use questions to shape thoughts. Questioning to gather information is 1/3 of the people that you run into will be so with it, and 2/3 of them are not going to like it at all. The very analytical person, every time you ask them a question, they stop and they think, I have to think through the implications of every possible answer before I get back to you. So I can't answer you for at least 2 days.
Okay. So sorry.
So I mean, we don't use questions. All right. So if somebody says to me, what was the thing? It's too much. What was your example before?
So it's like it's too
we don't
much.
have the budget for this.
Yeah, we don't have the budget for this. This is out of our budget range or something like that.
Right. So you want to demonstrate understanding. What do they tell you if they don't have the budget for it? They're telling you one of 2 things. They're either under pressure or what you're offering is not delivering adequate value.
Right. The value alignment. Yep.
So a demonstration of understanding would be seek first to understand, then be understood. Demonstrate understanding. Sounds like the value is just not there for you. They have just communicated to you very clearly that something's wrong with your proposition. And instead of you demonstrating any understanding of that in any way, shape, or form, instead you want to challenge them as if they weren't listening. Help me understand here. What's not here for you? Which is equivalent of saying, you haven't been paying attention, so I'm going to have to go back over my value proposition again because you're not paying attention. So let me see if I can isolate where you weren't paying attention so I can go back and correct you. I mean, that's what you're communicating when you say, help me understand what about this isn't valuable for you.
Okay.
And in most cases, a lot of people probably say it in a tone of voice that indicates that you think they're stupid.
Yeah.
So, but to say, sounds like the value's just not here for you is an indication of understanding, and it's an invitation to fix it. And it's taking responsibility on your side to be responsive to them instead of them being responsive to you.
Cool. And what you're searching for is the that's right, not you're right. Right?
Well, exactly. At some point in time, you get if somebody's saying you're right to you, they are trying to finish the interaction and go home. You want to go to lunch.
It's the same reason why you don't say I understand. Because what's the negative part of me, like after you tell me, so there's one about summarizing and rephrasing back to you, but then after you tell me something and me saying I understand, what's the danger of that?
Well, all right. Let's pretend like you actually do understand.
Right.
But when you say that, they're not clear on what you understand.
Mhm.
I mean, you're trying to give them the Cliff Notes version of it. I mean, how do they? If you say I understand, how do they know? How do they really know that they got their points across if you don't repeat back to them the points that they in fact got across? I mean, since we were kids, we played the telephone game. Tell somebody a secret. By the time you tell 4 other people, the secret's completely changed. I mean, it's nearly impossible to hear somebody's side of things the first time and get it right. So to say I understand, even if you do, chances are, let's say you're the best listener in the world. Chances are you got it 80% right. And you're taking a real risk on a percentage that you got wrong. So I understand that's just too nebulous. You tell me that you understand, I'm not sure I'm getting a warm and fuzzy feeling that you actually do.
Gotcha.
And in most cases, I understand precedes, but here's where you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Is it okay to say, let me make sure I heard you correctly, and then rephrase it back to them, or is there a better way of summarizing what you heard from them that makes them more open to understand that you really do understand?
No, it's not bad at all. I mean, we don't coach people to say it like that. There are other ways of saying it. I mean, let me make sure I heard you correctly is a command. And it's a grab at control again, and it's to take autonomy from the other side. And I mean, commands just they just don't sit well with other people. I mean, if you're a frontline salesperson and your CEO sets you down, you might be a little bit slow to say, "Tell me more about that," or "Let me make sure I understand." You might want to demonstrate your understanding, or you might change the tone of voice. But we like deference to begin with, which is not to take control. We love deference as an approach because there's great power in deference. I mean, we love deference because everybody loves it. If I'm deferential to you, you're going to give me a lot more opportunity to talk because I'm deferential. You're going to feel like you can stop me at any time. I mean, we love deference.
So it's more in the sense of, it seems like that instead of let me make sure I heard this correctly scenario.
Yeah, and again, tone of voice is going to make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can get away with a lot of bad words with great tone.
Yeah, you do.
And we were on a coaching call just the other day. And, we coach people to identify negatives. Identifying a negative diffuses it. And people say, okay, that makes sense to me. And we say, and identifying a negative never plants it. And they go, okay, that makes sense to me. And then we say, all right, so let's be proactive. Let's say, all right, you're probably upset with us. They say, oh my God, that's, they're going to respond to us. Well, I wasn't, but I am now. But wait a second, 2 seconds ago, you agreed that we couldn't plant negatives, and now you're arguing. So we get somebody arguing with us, and so I just stopped and I said, so it sounds like when I said identify negatives doesn't plant them, you thought it was wrong? Now, listen, that my tone was clear there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I could have said, so it sounds to me like when I said identify negatives doesn't plant them, you thought I was wrong. Same words.
Much different.
Tone of voice on the second one kills me. But the first one, I'm the tone of voice makes all the difference in the world. I mean, I'm 1,000% convinced that, the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. And, everybody wants to learn from Jordan Belfort.
God, no. Fuck no. Sorry.
And but they do, right?
Yeah.
So what was there to learn from him? In my view,
How to be
tone
an
of voice.
asshole. Yeah.
Well, the guy, I think the guy mastered tonality.
Did
I mean, 1,000, and clearly he mastered something because he wouldn't owe $100 million in restitution, which means he stole way more than that.
Uh-huh.
You know, but I mean, so what did he do? Because you take a look at straight line selling, and it's no matter what the client says, your widget is the answer. I mean, that by definition is not listening. So how did he get over so much? And in my view, the guy mastered tonality, and that is something that's fair for anybody to master. I'm not a fan otherwise. Don't get me wrong. The guy owes. The only reason that if you should ever consider buying his book would be to help give some of the $100 million back because he owes restitution based on book sales.
Yeah, tell me about it. Whenever anybody asks me what my favorite sales movies are, the Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room, Glengarry Glen Ross, I tell them no. Those are literally the worst sales movies I've ever seen in my life. They're great movies, they're funny, but they're literally everything that's wrong about selling. Everything that's wrong about selling. And I tell them to go look. The two best sales movies, and actually I'll finish with this. I want to understand what yours are. My two favorite sales movies, Pursuit of Happiness, right, with Will Smith.
Wow.
And Tommy Boy. You ever watch Tommy Boy?
I never thought of it as a sales movie, but it's a great thought.
Go watch it, because I talk about catching your sales groove, right? And there's a moment in every sales rep's life where they wake up and it's just a little bit easier today than it was yesterday, and you don't know when it was, but it's when you stop pitching your solutions and you start having conversations about your solutions.
Right.
You start caring more about the client's needs than you do about your commission check. And there's that beautiful moment in Tommy Boy where he catches his sales groove. He's like, Helen, you look like a Helen. Let me tell you why I suck as a sales rep. And he goes through this whole, like, Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet. And she's like, wow, you're twisted. I'll go fire up those wings. Oh, Tommy like you, Tommy want wingy. In that moment, he caught a sales groove. Because before that, he was pitching. He was trying to be like his dad. You could stick your head up a butcher's ass type of stuff, right? And couldn't figure it out. And then it was just him. And it was empathy. It was self-deprecation. And so it's a beautiful sales movie if you get a chance to go see it again.
I'll probably go back and watch it again.
Yeah, go watch. You can put the sales lens on because, right, it's funny at first. It's like, yeah, Tommy Boy, that's fun, big fat guy making fun of himself. But look at it with the sales lens on. It's a blast. So
that's really cool. Yeah. All right. Very good.
Do you have any favorite sales movies or anything like that, or
look at it through a different lens? I look at it through negotiation, right? And as opposed to sales. But that's a lens I'm going to have to go back and take another look at it.
Yeah, my question